the super dogs. Welcome to the show. They can jump high, they almost touch the sky. So hold on tight and just watch them fly. Whoa, oh, go super dogs. Whoa, oh, go super dogs. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wanna see some more. Get them on the floor so they can play some more. Go super dogs.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the President's Choice Super Dogs Ask the Trainer. This is our third segment. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm thrilled to have you all here today. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them. And tonight, I'm super excited because we are doing our first prize pack giveaway, which I will announce towards the end of the live. It's a prize pack that is worth just over $100 of Super Dogs material, merchandise, that sort of stuff. And we had a contest earlier, or a giveaway earlier, that we asked people to write in with comments, and we would pick somebody from those. So I'll be doing that later tonight. So thank you very much for that. And we're going to get started with our very first question from Amy LeBlanc. And her question is, how do we keep pets cool during hot weather? Great question. I live in Ontario. We finally had a bit of a break in our heat wave today, but I know in Montreal that you guys are still suffering with the heat. So this is a great question. And as the summer progresses, something that we're all going to have to deal with. It's something that's important to all of us. So I mean, it's obvious, but I will state the obvious. Of course, we're never going to leave our dogs in cars parked, even with the windows down, even in the shade. It is always too warm for them. So that's just something that I say, even though I know that you guys know that. But of course, never leave dogs in warm cars. Now, depending on the age of your dog, you have a different set of challenges during the summer months. For those of us that have young, energetic, active dogs, the problem that we have, or the issues that we're working with, is that dogs might not know enough to keep themselves cool, in terms of they might be wanting to be more active, play ball, play frisbee, running around, and they don't know enough to lay down the way maybe an older dog would. So that's really on us to make sure that we don't allow our dogs to over-exercise during this warm weather. So if you have a young active dog and a dog that needs exercise, I would recommend exercising early in the morning, later in the evening. If it's a truly, really warm, miserable day, and use your own, how you're feeling in the heat. If you're struggling with the heat, know that your pet is struggling, and probably more, given that they're wearing a fur coat. So if it's a day like that, don't feel guilty if you can't get them out and exercise. Try to play games at home that will challenge them mentally, and that's going to tire your dog out the same amount. You don't always have to give them that same amount of physical activity on a really hot day. It might not be best for their safety. Of course, we always have to keep in mind things like heat stroke, dehydration for dogs, burnt pads, those sorts of things. So those are always on our radar when you're working your dog or exercising your dog in the summer. Hopefully you have access to a fan or an air conditioner to keep your dog cool. If you have an older dog, you want to pay special attention to them as well. They are not able to cool themselves off as well. And those of us that own what I would call a snub-nosed dog, so like a boxer, bulldog, Boston Terrier, pugs, those dogs with shorter nose, they're struggling even more. They have their airway is much smaller than a longer nosed dog. So their ability to take in air and oxygen and cool themselves off is limited. So really be aware of those dogs as well. But things that you can do to keep your dogs cool in the summer, besides air conditioning and a fan, if you have access to a cooling mat, which you can buy at a pet supply store, that actually is a mat that is cool, that helps to keep your dog's body temperature down. That's a great idea. Giving them access even to a cold towel to lay on, giving them ice in their water and cool, of course, access to water throughout the day is a great idea. Something else that you can do, in addition to their kibble that you're feeding them, if you have a dog, an older dog, sometimes this is a particular concern. If they're not drinking enough water, you can substitute part of their kibble with a canned food. I feed my dogs nutrition first, and for my older dogs, I will give them some canned nutrition first in the summer because it has more moisture in it. And that water makes sure that they're drinking enough water, at least getting a bit more water. So that's something to keep in mind. And my last tip for dogs in the summer, and this is for all dogs, is you can even put your own hand on top of the pavement and see if it's uncomfortable for you. So if you're resting your hand on the pavement and it's really uncomfortable and you're struggling to keep your hand on the pavement, it's the same for your dog. So limit your walks to before the sun comes out then. So first thing in the morning or in the evening, so that you're not worried about your dogs having that much heat on their pads, because that can be very uncomfortable for them, and dogs can burn their pads of their feet. That's a good question as well. Thank you very much for asking that, Amy. My next question is from Brittany. And do I have any tips for successfully crate training a puppy? So crate training is a very important step when you're raising a young dog. Bear in mind, or things to consider, is your puppy should think of their crate as a happy place and not as a punishment. So if your dog has an accident in the house, if they're acting up, if they're doing something that is displeasure to you, that's not when you want to put your puppy in a crate. But I know that there's times when we need to have our dogs out from underneath our feet. So you want to put your dog's crate in a place that is in your home where you are. So it's not like they're being banished. They're part of the household. If you can easily move the crate around, that's great. So maybe it's in the kitchen while you're making dinner, or if you're watching a movie. You want to crate your dog sometimes when you are home, so that it's not just a place where your dog goes and then you leave, or where they're spending all of their time alone. Having a crate set up in a part of the house where the family is, and allowing your dogs to go in and closing the door so that they get comfortable spending time with in there, giving them things that they can do in their crate. I find that things that they can do in their crate that are not overly stimulating. I don't have my dogs playing rambunctiously in their crates. They can have a chew toy. They can have a bone, a Kong filled with something that entertains them as well. And keeping your dogs in for success, and as much as you can, not allowing your puppy out of the crate if they're having like a puppy temper tantrum. All of us go through this at some point when we're raising our dogs, and we put our pups in a crate and they're unhappy and they're not pleased with the situation. But for their safety, having a crate while you're raising a puppy is really important. It's important for traveling in your home before they can be trusted outside to not get into things. So practice lots. If you're working from home right now, you have an advantage of being able to crate your puppy while you're home as well. I find, depending on your puppy, sometimes covering their crate too, and every dog is different. Sometimes if you cover their crate, it helps them go to sleep because they're not as likely to be watching things as well, or to be wanting to see what they can't get. Those would be some of the tips that I would try. Thanks very much for your question, Brittany. Appreciate it. Next question, how do I train my dog to wee through my legs? A great question. We actually have a video on this on our YouTube channel, which is in the tips, tricks, and training. I actually taught it with my dog, Lala, and it is one of my favorite tricks to teach because I always joke that you can walk your dog twice as far in half the space. So watch that video, but what you want to do to start is get your dog used to being around and underneath and between your legs. It sounds sort of funny to think that some dogs might not be comfortable with that because they're around us all the time, but not all dogs are comfortable walking between our legs. When you start, pick a side that you want to start on. I typically have my dogs on my left-hand side, and for those of us that teach obedience, our left-hand side is referred to as our heel position. And I just do that to start. It helps my dog get comfortable. And literally, I'm luring my dog. So I would have a treat in both hands. You can just use their dinner with this so that you're not overfeeding them. And you want to bend right over and put the treat on their nose, and they're going to follow that treat through your leg. And as they come around, you're going to meet with them the other treat, then through your legs. You want to pick a command for it. You'll notice in the video with my dog, Ulala, I call this Zig and Zag. And you're just luring them through and rewarding them along the way, and really break it down. I think the video that I did shows that it's not a trick that you'll see. Most dogs can pick this trick up pretty quickly, but you're not going to see the end result your first training session. But what you should see is your dog moving in between your legs relatively quickly, and that's the point that you can start to name that trick. I name it Zigzag, but you can call it Weave Walk. Just something that is cute and that you think you will be able to say quickly to your dog. Thank you very much for the question. Next question is, I have a 5-month-old border collie, and when I take her for a walk, she likes to pull me, and I've been trying everything to get her to stop. Would you have any suggestions? So you have a 5-month-old, very energetic, active dog. So a couple things to try. First, when you go for a walk, when I'm teaching my young dogs, I have a couple of things that I try. Um, I use the word heel that I spoke about earlier. Heel for me is a very precise body position, meaning I want my dog right at my left-hand side, really tight and close to my body. The other command that I use for my dogs is let's go, which means let's go for a walk, be at my side, but don't pull. So I have different criteria for those two commands for my dog. We do have a great video again on tips, tricks, and training about how to teach this one. And I think I taught obedience classes for about 15 years, and teaching your dogs to not pull when they go for a walk and teaching them to come when called were the two most important things that people asked, because nobody wants to walk their dog when they're pulling us down the street, and having a reliable recall not only improves your dog's quality of life, but it can be a game changer in terms of their safety. So they are important. Neither of these skills you can teach in one training session. So please don't get frustrated if you have a very 5-month-old, energetic, exuberant dog. It's not going to happen immediately. You might consider using some sort of training device. A head halter or a body harness would be a great recommendation. Of course, we train all of the dogs with super dogs with positive reinforcement, so I would not suggest anything like a choke chain or a prong collar, nothing that's going to cause your dog distress or discomfort. You want to reward them for being successful and set them up to be successful rather than punishing them for making a mistake. But start indoors where you have very little distractions. And if you're successful indoors, you know that you're going to be able to train this skill outdoors. There are going to be times where you have to just get to where you're going, and that's where a body harness or a gentle leader might help you out to just get to the park, or just allow your dog outside to go to the washroom, and then train this exercise separately from your actual walks. Practice it indoors where you have limited distractions, and then move maybe to a backyard or a front yard where you can increase distractions. And when you're training it, and it'll show you this in the tips, tricks, and training video on YouTube, rather than trying to walk in a straight line, changing directions a lot will help your dog, because as you turn, your dog will have to run to catch up with you. And then if you turn again, your dog will have to run and catch up with you. I use a lot of treats when I'm training my dogs to walk on my left-hand side. You'll give the treat from your left hand, because that will help keep them in the position of being on your left-hand side. You can do this with their dinner. You can get super valuable treats for your dog and reward them whenever they're successful. Talk to them in your happiest, upbeat voice, even if you're struggling and it's not going well, to encourage them along the way. And keep your training sessions short. And when you're having success, that's a good time to stop. Sometimes our instincts are, it's going well, we should keep going, but you want to stop and reward your dog while they're successful rather than pushing it till they've made a mistake. Thank you very much, Erica. I appreciate the question. Karen Oliver, hello. Hi, Amy. I have a new dog and I need some help. I'm happy to hear that, Karen. She is afraid of pretty much everything but me and barks constantly at people, noise, etc. What can I do? Congratulations on your new dog, Karen. When you adopt a dog, this is not an uncommon situation. And keep that in mind when you're working with your young dogs. In my opinion, from when I worked at the Humane Society and the dogs that I've adopted myself or my friends that I've had, I think that the dog that you adopt is not the dog that you end up with. For obvious reasons, we're going to train them and whatnot. But I think that dogs take about 4 to 6 months from the day they come home to really figure out what's going on. And that's been my experience with any dog that I brought home, but also with friends and family that I've adopted. So don't stress too much about if it's not a perfect picture yet. So years ago, things are different now with social distancing and self-isolation. It's a little bit harder to train some of these things. But years ago, we used to encourage people when our dogs were uncertain or uncomfortable or nervous in new situations. We would try to have other people reward our dogs. And what we found out over the years is sometimes we can push our dogs too far. So I would bring my dog out on the street, have her on a leash. A body harness might be good too if you have a dog that's nervous. Sometimes they back out of their collar, so a body harness might be great for her safety here, just so you don't have any risk of her accidentally getting overwhelmed. And just find a spot, sit yourself down, and you can even bring her dinner and her breakfast with her. And as the scary thing, whatever that could be in her mind, and bear in mind, we don't always know our dog's past, so we don't know why things are scary. So we have to have patience with them. But for example, I'm going to use a garbage truck. If your dog is afraid of the garbage truck, as the garbage truck is approaching, regardless of my dog's reaction, even if they're fearful, I'm going to be rewarding my dog. And by rewarding, that means I'm going to be giving them treats, talking to them in a positive voice. What I don't want to do is to make my dog think they're correct to be scared. And it's a very small distinction, but very important. What I won't do is pick my dog up, coddle them, pet them, and shelter them and protect them. Because what I'm saying to my dog is, you're right to be scared. What I want my dog to do is to gain confidence. So I could be playing, if I could progress to playing with my dog, that would be something we would work towards. But as the scary thing approaches, I'm rewarding my dog, rewarding my dog, rewarding my dog. As the scary thing goes away, the treats stop. And that is the same whether it's a garbage truck, people walking down the street, a dog across the road, a neighbor's dog walking. It's really the same training technique. I mentioned earlier, what we used to do was try to have strangers reward our dogs. And I can't tell you how many times I have a dog that can be shy in some situations, and she's sometimes shy and sometimes not. So it's hard to read her. And almost always, and I have a lot of dog friends who are very dog savvy, and what they'll say is, it's okay, all dogs like me. But that's more their ego. So what happens is they inadvertently overextend themselves, and they put too much pressure on the dog by enforcing a dog to take a treat or a pat from them that's beyond their comfort level. So always allow the dog to approach a person or the situation on their own. Never force our dogs. If your dog wants out, then you have to let them out. If they're saying this is too much for me and they need to put distance between themselves or the person or whatever the scary thing is, always allow them to. And similar to what I was saying with Erica with the training sessions, keep them short and successful. And if you feel like try to end on success, and don't push your dog beyond their limits, and keep that 4 to 6 months in mind, that all the work that you're doing now is for this 4 to 6 month mark. And congratulations on your new dog, Karen. Next question is from Amber. Our dog is 6 months old, and she has pretty strong prey drive, especially towards birds. What can you do to suggest to calm her down? It is very hard. Prey drive is hard. I have a terrier and I have sighthounds, and they are bred to do a certain thing. And I mean, I deal with it as well with my own dogs. Similar to what I was suggesting with Karen with keeping your dog on leash, you can always practice those exercises as well. I have a property that's a lot of squirrels and a lot of chipmunks, and I deal with my hounds and the chipmunks all the time, wanting to chase them. It's why they were bred. So keep that in mind with your training. And birds are difficult because they're in the air and they fly around, and there are going to be birds in our world. So teaching your dog a command like watch you is a great way to get your dogs from looking up is to look at you. If you can keep your dog on a long line during the training process as well, that would help. So that the benefit of that is that your dog, because birds are flying around and we can't control what the birds are doing, we can only control what our dogs are doing. Having your dog on a long line or a leash, so that if they are not responding to the commands that you're giving, that you can interrupt the behavior. And that's what's really important, is that they don't get the opportunity to practice that behavior of chasing the birds or reacting to the birds. I said in one of our earlier trainings lives that the more a dog repeats a behavior, the better that they get at it, even if it's a behavior we don't like. So my dog chasing a squirrel or your dog being stimulated by the birds, the more we allow that to happen and don't interrupt it, the better they get at it. So it's really important that you try to interrupt them with something that they can do, teaching your dog a great recall, playing tug with them, anything that you can do to compete with the level of stimuli that they're getting from those birds. And your dog is 6 months, so you've got a lot of time to keep working on that, and just practice it every day for a little bit every day. Thanks, Amber, for the question, Amber. Our next question is from Tracy. Any tips for dealing with dogs that are terrified of thunderstorms? I think what we can do with thunderstorms, and I have a dog that is also worried about fireworks, and we had, even though we're self-isolating, there was fireworks at my house, near my house the other day for Victoria Day, and my dog, one of my dogs considers fireworks very similar. So what I think we can do is, depending on your dog, I'm not sure if you can ever fix it, but I think we can manage it. And that's my honest opinion. I've never been able to, I think I've been able to make my dogs comfortable, but I don't think I've ever taken a dog that has been fearful of thunderstorms or phobic and making them completely happy. But a couple of things that we can do. If you have a Thunder shirt, which you can get at a pet supply store, which is actually like a little shirt for a dog, and I can bring it on the next live and show you, it actually goes fairly snug around your dog's body, and that helps to bring your dog's comfort. So that's a great way to start to get your dogs used to it. You can try to keep them away from, as much as you possibly can, the noise that is happening. So if you think that a thunderstorm's coming, if I know that there's going to be fireworks, I will make sure my dog has gone to the washroom before, so they don't have to have any outings. I have them with me in the house. I might have the TV on or the sound of a fan to interrupt the sound. Similar to what I was saying to Karen about not picking up and coddling your dog, which is, I love dogs, so I get it that we want to. Our instincts are to look after them and to nurture our dogs, but by doing so, you might make your dog think that they're right to be more fearful. If your dog has the most favorite toy or treat, something that is super yummy, a bone that they love that is not something that they would eat quickly, but something that would occupy them for a while, I would save that for them to have then. Dogs usually also, when there's a thunderstorm, they usually gravitate towards, if they have a crate in the home, they go towards that. They look for usually a small place of comfort. Sometimes it's under something. Allow them that. Allow them, and then you can stay with them without coddling them, but just sort of so that you're entertaining them. But what I don't want you to do is be like, it's okay, because if you continue to soothe them, it actually makes them think that they're right to be fearful. So you can be with them, try to give them rewards, try to interrupt the behavior as much as possible. If it's real, and every dog is different, but if it is very severe, it actually might be something that you speak with your veterinarian about. There's a lot of anti-anxiety medication, and that's different than like a sedative. You're not, making your dog sleepy. This is medication that they can take for anxiety, and it's something that you might consider, because dogs that are really fearful of sounds like that, they're really suffering, and it might be something that you want to speak with your veterinarian about as well. Thank you for the question, Tracy. The next question is from Chloe Hallpenny. Lately, our dog refuses to come in from walks, even after walking for a long time and getting fed right when she comes in. It's frustrating and embarrassing, and when I have to pick her up and bring her inside, what can we do? Dogs are great at training us to do all sorts of things, and this is a good example of that. So if you have a dog that goes, well, first of all, make sure that your dog, sometimes if you make sure your dog doesn't have injury, that they're of able body and that they're able to walk. But this sounds like a dog that's going for a walk and then is as you approach your home, puts the brakes on because they don't want to go in. So a couple of things that I would do is change your route when you go for a walk. So if you always go for a walk and you go around the block or whatever your route is, and your dogs are very, very clever that as they approach your house, they know it's time to go home. So you can change your route up to keep your dog on their toes, so to speak, so that they don't see their home. They don't anticipate when it's time to go home. And then I would also walk by my house. So if I'm going, or my apartment, wherever you live, if you're going for a walk, don't try to eliminate cues that your dog would pick up on, meaning that the walk is over. So if you go for a walk and you always go around the block around your house, your dog knows that route. So walk by your home. The other thing that you can do is, often most of us feed our dogs before we go, allow them to go for a walk. It's just sort of an easy routine for us. So I would change that, take my dog for their big walk and feed them when they get home. Most of the dogs love their meals. So if you haven't fed them their big meal, their breakfast or their dinner, I would feed it after their walk. So that's something for them to look forward to. If your schedule does not allow that and you need to feed them before, save their most valued treat that they get and give it to them when they get home, so that they have something to look forward to when they get back into their home. Equally, you could, if you think about your schedule, often we walk our dog, so we want them to go home and get settled so we can get on with their day. A lot of us even more so because we're working at home now. Try to build in about 10 or 15 minutes into your schedule so that after you walk home and you get home, play with your dog. So it doesn't mean I go home and then my dog has to lay down so I can get to work. I want them to go home, and that being at home was as much, if not more fun than the walk. so that they don't, because often our dogs think the walk is the best part, I don't want it to end, but if getting in the house is the best part, then that's what they're going to look forward to. That would be my recommendation. Thank you very much for the question, Chloe. The next question is for Stephanie. What is the first thing to teach a puppy or newly adopted dog? So depending on, I would teach my dog first their name, and I would secondly teach my dog to focus on me or attention exercises. There's so many things I want to teach a new dog. We want to teach them the recall, and we want to teach them to walk nicely on leash, but I need to have my dog know to look at me, and I need to have their attention. So whether that is a look command or something that says to keep them focused on me, because if they're not knowing their name, or they're not focused on me, or they're not, I don't have their attention, I won't be able to teach all of the other things. The list of things that we want to teach young dogs is endless in terms of house training and house rules and not jumping up on me or other people. I mean, there's so many things you want to teach a new dog, but first I need my dog to know what their name is going to be, and I need my dog to be attentive to me so that we can start the training process. Thank you for that question, Stephanie. I'm going to before we move, oh, I love that question, Emily, and I will answer it, but I want to give away my prize pack before it gets too long. So this is, you can see it's full of great, there we go, there it is, get it in the frame here. This is our prize pack that we're giving out tonight. It was just a giveaway. We asked people to send in a question or comment, and that we were going to give away Super Dogs prize pack. There's over $100 worth of Super Dogs merchandise here, so I'm super excited. I'm going to draw a name, and then we will just contact you through social media, and we will get the prize out to you. Oh, so this is what I've done. Everybody put their names in here. I put it in a Super Dog hat, and I'm just going to reach around. And thank you very much. The winner is Lori Newman. Congratulations. You're going to win our very first Super Dogs giveaway. We're going to start doing more of these. Every time we'll do something a little bit different, but this was our first one. $100 of great merchandise, which I'll be happy to send off to you. Thank you very much for everybody that entered. That was fun. All right, moving on to the next question. Emily said, what is your favorite part about performing with your dogs? I love this question. So I have been performing with the Super Dogs for over 20 years. It's a long time. I used to do a lot of dog sports. I do some dog sports now, but I do a lot more Super Dogs just because of my schedule. I love spending time with my dogs. It's my favorite thing to do. I have 7 dogs, and they are a very important part of my world. And as a pet owner, it's great. But as somebody who performs and competes, it just raises the bar, so to speak, or the relationship, because we have experiences that if you're not in this world, it's hard to explain. Performing at the CNE in front of 2,000 people 4 times a day, how rewarding that is to see people smile, to know that you're maybe impacting somebody that's going to want to do the same thing with their dog, and that maybe they have a dog at home that they're now going to try to do different things with their dog. That sometimes people say to us that their dog isn't as smart as a super dog, and that is not the case. All of the dogs are capable of learning these things. It's just that this happens to be what I decided to do with my dogs. But all dogs can learn. So whether you're doing this at the CNE or whether you're doing it in your backyard, if I can inspire someone to have a little bit more fun and creativity and spend some time with their dog, that's amazing. I would love to think that a dog got to have a bit more fun because of something that we were doing. And also, the Super Dogs is my family. They are, I'm missing them terribly right now. Well, anyway, that's a huge part of it. My extended family is Super Dogs. I love being at shows with them, both backstage and on stage. And of course, the more I can encourage people to spend time with their dog, love their dog, communicate with their dog, that's what we are all about. So thank you, Emily. I hope that you enjoy spending time with your dogs as well. Thank you very much. We are actually at 8 o'clock. Wow, I say it every time, that went by super fast. We're going to have another live probably in a couple of weeks. If you continue to watch our channel, you'll see we will post on our social media when we're going to do that, either on Instagram or through our YouTube or, of course, Facebook. when we're going to do our next live, and we're going to start changing things up to have other trainers join us, some other influencers, add some different video and different content as well. If you have any requests or suggestions, please send them in. We are happy to hear back from you. We're just starting out. This is only our third time, but we're having lots of positive feedback. So thank you very much for joining us. Of course, always stay safe at home and love your dogs, play with your dogs, and communicate with your dogs. Thanks very much. Have a great night, guys. Take care.